Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you've been following along, you know that I already have a few VLOOKUP videos on this channel and I'll link them in the description if you want to check them out. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to use the XLOOKUP function in VBA in order to find data across different sheets, and we're going to explore how to set up dynamic ranges, find last rows in different sheets, and let's get started. I have two worksheets here, and this, by the way, is completely fake gibberish dataset. And if you're curious how I created it, I used Python library for this, and I'll make sure to link this video also in the description if you're interested. But I have two worksheets, one with some user IDs and another worksheet with that also contains user IDs, emails, and names. And since the user ID is in column B and the names are in column A, then this already explains that we cannot use the VLOOKUP function, and therefore we're going to use XLOOKUP. And the idea is with one click to get both the names and the emails. So let's get started. And I'm gonna click Alt F11 as the Visual Basic Editor and start writing a subroutine which I will call VBA XLOOKUP. And the first thing that I would like to do is I'm going to set worksheet variables for the two worksheets we have. So these are going to be object variables. So the first one I will call users worksheet as worksheet, comma, and then data worksheet as worksheet, comma. And since they are objects, we need to set them using the set statement. This workbook dot worksheets users, and then set data worksheet. This workbook dot worksheets data. Then I'd like to find the last row of the first worksheet, which is users. So I'm going to create a variable which I will call users last row as long. And here I can write users last row equals to users worksheet dot cells rows dot count, comma, 1 dot end XLOOKUP dot row. And if I want to see if this is correct, then I can write debug print users last row. If I click run, it returns 501, which I assume is correct. And then I would also want to find the last row in this data worksheet. And for this, I'm also going to use the user ID column because normally in production datasets, user IDs are not expected to be empty, whereas sometimes names and emails can be missing. So here I'm going to type in a comma and declare another variable which I will call data last row as long, and the data last row will be data worksheet dot cells rows dot count, comma, the column index for column B is 2, close the parentheses, and XLOOKUP dot row. And if I want to verify if this is correct, then I can print it in the immediate window, and this return 1001, which I also believe is correct. Now the next thing that I want to do is to set dynamic ranges, because as you know, the XLOOKUP function, when we write it, it accepts as argument the lookup value, the lookup array, and the return array. So I want to set dynamic ranges for the user ID, the names, and the emails. So these will be 3 ranges. So I'm gonna call this user range as range, and then we'll have name range as range, and email range also as range. And after we have found the last row, then we can set all these 3 ranges individually. So the user range will be in data worksheet, that range. And here we can write this like this: A2 column A, close double quotes, and concatenate this with the data last row variable, because essentially this will be interpreted from A2 to A1001. And now, actually the users are not in column A. I would have made a mistake here. This is in column B. And then the names are in column A. So I can copy paste this a few times and just change some details. So the names are in column A, and the emails are in column C. Now, in real world project, you would not want to hard code these values like that, because if tomorrow someone sends you production data and they append here another column, then this will no longer work. So in a future video, I'm going to show how to create a user-defined function, which will ensure that this works. It doesn't matter what type of data set you are being sent. But just to show you that these ranges are correct, then I can write, for instance, now user range.select, and then name range.select, and then email range.select. And I'll click here and click run now. So now if I click F8, we can see that it has selected all cells from B2 to B exactly until the end of the last row. And if I click now F8, it's going to do the same for the names and then the emails. So what we need to do now is write a loop and populate in the user sheet the relevant values using the XLOOKUP function. So I will need another variable here, I as long, in order to use it in the loop. So for I equals 2 to users last row, next I. And now I think it's going to be more understandable if I use another variable, which I will call user ID as string. And the user ID will be in users worksheet, users ws.cells, on row I and column 1, that value. And now I need to populate the names and emails. So users worksheet that cells I, comma 2 dot value equals application dot xlookup, and we're looking for the user ID, comma, this is the name. So the table array that we're looking will be user range, and we want to return the name range. And very similar, column 3, where I want to get the emails. Here, all we need to do is change the email range. And if I click run now, then we can see that it works. And if I check, for instance, one user ID, it says Raymond Shelton, which I guess is correct. The good thing about using XLOOKUP is that we can directly change this NA error to something else if we want. So we can write here, let's say not found, or email does not exist. And if I click run now, instead of the not available error, we can see a custom message. And another thing I would like to show you is that now these instructions are no longer readable. So we can use spaces and underscore in order to move the same instruction to a new line. And I think it's going to make it more readable. And instead of not found, I will simply leave an empty string. And let's do the same thing here. And let's leave an empty string here as well. I think this makes the code more readable. And if I click run, now instead of not available error, we're just getting empty cells. So this is the way to use XLOOKUP dynamically across worksheets. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.